Okay. So we do want to go over a few housekeeping rules initially. I know these are probably familiar to everyone. Please make sure to mute yourself. We'll also try to keep an eye on that. Any questions or anything can be handled in the chat or with the raise hand feature. And then just make sure to keep video off unless you are presenting. Okay, so as far as our event agenda goes, we are in that first step. So welcome and housekeeping. I know that's all pretty basic. My name is Megan Urachek. I am a training and education specialist with the Workforce Development Program within the Forest Service's National Partnerships Office. The presenter introductions I'll go into shortly as well. We have presenters from both the National Partnerships Office as well as the state and private forestry offices as well. We'll go over the mission, developing a future workforce, urban and community forestry, some upcoming events and opportunities, and then as mentioned, we'll have time for Q&A. So our presenters today, we have Beatra Wilson. She's the Assistant Director for Cooperative Forestry. She will be presenting along with Ricardo Martinez. Ricardo is a Supervisory Program Specialist within our Workforce Development Partnership Service Hub within the Forest Service National Partnership Office. So our first presenter today will be Ricardo, and I will hand the presentation over to him.
Well, thank you, Megan, and thank you to everyone for taking the time to come out here and learn a little bit with us and share with us in this engagement. The first slide we're gonna look through here is really just an opportunity to kind of set the stage, if you will. Thinking through, I know where everyone is sort of spread out throughout the country, and this map just offers an opportunity to sort of see the primary areas where the Forest Service operates. So you're thinking about the Forest Service, our motto is caring for the land and serving people, and we recognize that when you look at a map and you overlay where all the people exist and where our forests are, it's not always congruent. There's some areas where it's not always the same, and so we seek to serve people and to care for the land, and sometimes that means in the urban and community setting that means having to do work outside of where our sort of geographic boundaries cover. And so we're interested in all those things. We're interested in obviously caring for the land and taking care of the natural resources that are assigned to us as a government agency, and also connecting people with the land wherever the people are. So that's really important to us. There's kind of three principal functions within the Forest Service. One is managing the lands you see on this map. The other one, under the whole state and private forestry piece, is really helping cities and communities to improve their natural environment. And then we have a research and development function that really seeks to improve the conversation, the scientific skill and knowledge that's known about doing this type of work. So the overall mission of the Forest Service is to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of the nation's forests and grasslands to meet the needs of present and future generations. And that's really, a lot of what we'll talk about through the course of this presentation, is how we meet those needs of this generation and the generations to come. Next slide, please. All right, so just looking through some Forest Service priorities here. We're looking through, and specific to this conversation, we like to both adapt to a changing climate and also do what we can to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And so, carbon sequestration, limiting the impacts of wildfires, all of these things. So reducing hazardous fuels, that's a term that can be specific to kind of a Forest Service audience, but what it means is that what actions that we can take on the landscape to make forested lands more resilient to fire activity, that we want to do that, whether that's reducing the amount of vegetation in a given area, the separation of fuels, things like that. And so just thinking through reducing hazards that are there from fuels on the landscape, reforestation and restoring natural habitats. When you think about ecosystems and the species that make up those ecosystems, it's really sort of creating ideal conditions and kind of correcting for the effects that happen either naturally through something like a natural disaster like a flood or a wildfire, or from human activity. And then, for the purposes of this conversation, it's really thinking about training a future workforce and expanding partnerships. And so engaging with youth wherever youth are, right, in urban environments and rural environments, and thinking through, exposure to the kind of work we do, because we believe in the work we do and we think it's really important, and expanding the partnerships to sort of create this understanding across the nation that these are your public lands and that we're all sort of have a stake in managing them well. Next slide, please. So just thinking through some of the programs that are managed under the umbrella of the Workforce Development Partnerships, and in the National Partnership Office, some of these opportunities to engage with the Forest Service. We have 21st Century Conservation Service Corps and the Public Lands Corps, and this is targeted at people aged 18 to up to 35 if you're a military veteran, but 30 if you're a non-veteran, to get out and have an opportunity to have skill building experiences and I guess just exposure to doing public lands work. The Indian Youth Service Corps is a program that's under that same Public Land Corps authority, but it's targeted specifically at tribal and indigenous communities. The Youth Conservation Corps, I guess I'll stop and back up there and just mention that the PLC opportunity comes with the opportunity to complete requirements that will earn you a non-competitive hiring eligibility into a federal job if that's something that interests you after you complete that program. So that applies to both the 21 CSC and PLC as well as the Indian Youth Service Corps. YCC is definitely targeted at youth, and so you're looking at young adults or young people aged 15 to 18. Resource Assistance Program is specifically targeted at folks enrolled in higher education programs. And so if you're in a degree awarding institution and looking for opportunities to gain entry into the Forest Service's workforce, it's a really great program that will match you up with a mentor, give you meaningful work experience, and help you to, once you complete the requirements of the program, earn a direct hiring authority so that you can get a follow-on job with the Forest Service. Then there's other student internships. We manage some key ones with organizations such as the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, and the Conference on Asian Pacific American Leadership as some examples. There's others there. And then there's opportunities at just about every national forest to volunteer and be involved in project work on a volunteer basis. So we're going to have a poll here and just sort of get a sense of the level of knowledge people have with opportunities to partner with the Forest Service. So Megan, if you could put that poll up. So the question on the poll is, are you familiar with the Forest Service's opportunities to engage youth in job and training experience? It's just a simple yes or no question. So, just take a second and answer that poll, and we'll just sort of gauge the level of familiarity in our audience with these programs. All right, and are we able to move the slide while this poll's wrapping up, or do we need to give some more time there, Megan? All right, so it looks like there's this pretty solid mix as we're not done closing the poll, but it looks like, for the most part, the majority do have some level of familiarity and some not. So I'm going to close this. So just wanted to talk about some upcoming events and opportunities. Just really to sort of introduce some of these. This is by no means comprehensive, but it's just an opportunity to sort of share some of the opportunities to partner with the Forest Service. So the 1994 Tribal Scholars Program is available for those folks who are enrolled, who are enrolled members of a tribe and at an institution of higher learning for a scholarship. I talked a little bit about the Resource Assistance Program, but that's if you are in a degree awarding institution and looking for an opportunity to intern or get a follow-on job with the Forest Service. The 1890 Scholars Program targets African-American enrollees, and we're looking at folks attending historically Black colleges and universities. The Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities National Internship Program is obviously a program targeting Hispanic youth. And then Conference on Asian Pacific American Leadership is another program. And so there's information in the links in all of those, as well as the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which is an internship program similar to 1890, but it's an individual single year internship as opposed to the 1890 Scholars Program, which is a scholarship over, multiple years. And I think with that slide, just correct me if I'm wrong here, Megan, that concludes my section of the presentation, and I will hand it over to Beatra Wilson.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you to the Partnership Office for this opportunity for me to share a little information about our urban and community forestry program and our aspirations with designing and delivering some jobs-related solutions for our urban youth. Urban and community forestry is a 30-plus-year-old program inside of state, private, and tribal forestry. I am the assistant director. We sit inside of the Cooperative Forestry Directorate, and in that role, I'm an assistant director, and I lead the urban and community forestry portfolio. We are at a very exciting time in our program. We're at an exciting time in our sector. And as we are experiencing an administration that is truly prioritizing climate and equity and environmental justice, youth, minority serving institutions, we are excited to be at the intersectionality of all of those. And so this opportunity to partner with the Partnership Office came up on our radar. We've been talking about it for weeks, and thank you all for making the time to join us. So this is really truly about our urban youth workforce, slightly different than the traditional Forest Service footprint through the core style operations and opportunities. We are looking to design something unique and very intentional. As we are a Justice 40 covered program, we are laser focused on the commitment that we've made that no less than 40% of the investment that we've made benefit those most disadvantaged. We are also lead on an equity action plan for the Department of Agriculture around urban forestry. And part of that includes workforce and creating opportunities for the next generation. And beyond that, in addition to our core program resources and portfolio, through Inflation Reduction Act, this program received $1.5 billion. And in that, I would say, pool of resources, we have been looking to identify innovative ways that we can carve out pilots that we can look to tell the stories, learn from our lessons in a pilot phase or way, and see how we can sustain these opportunities for years to come. So I come to you all as a card-carrying urban forester. And in that aspect, I want to create an opportunity that really thinks on exposing, introducing, networking with, and making room for our young people right in the communities where they reside, creating opportunities for them to work in our nation's urban forest, and also making sure that these young people are on a path, right? We're looking at, I think, what the window we have to work with, and under the direction of our colleagues in the partnership office, is we're looking at the urban youth conservation core model. So we're looking at opportunities we can present with young people between that 15 to 18 and 19-year-old market, and thinking about opportunities designed for youth in their communities, for work to be delivered by youth in their communities, and to embed and engage as much equity, fairness, access, and opportunity as possible. Next slide, please. So who we are in terms of the Urban and Community Forestry Program, if you're thinking about where we might reside, we're predominantly responsible for taking care of the trees where you live, work, play, where you're educated, where you pray. That's where we are. That's what we're set up to serve. We are inside of state, private, and tribal forestry. So instead of thinking about deploying youth on crews to go into the National Forest System or grasslands, or if you're familiar with the national parks and the Park Service, this is different. We're talking about the neighborhoods and the communities right where they live. We know that there are nature-deprived communities who have systemically been underserved when it comes to green space and tree canopy cover. And so this is a way we are looking to design a model to get our youth's hands involved through our network and extended network of partners. And that's why we've come to you all today to talk. 84% of Americans live in urban areas. And again, we're not just urban America. We are urban and community forestry. And so we don't have a threshold. We have communities as small as 2,500 population, right? But we work very closely with our state forestry agencies to identify the communities that are eligible to be assisted through our program. Again, as a Justice 40 covered program, we know that through the Climate Environmental Justice Screening Tool, there's some very clear indicators of which communities are disadvantaged. And so we are prioritizing those communities for our resources to flow to them. And we also are excited about the fact that as we focus on the most disadvantaged and vulnerable through whether it's the canopy cover or any of the other societal conditions that they're dealing with, we have this tailwind to help us be successful. And in that is, we have the opportunity to waive match on our traditional agreements that that will indicate and will demonstrate work focused on and prioritizing the disadvantaged communities across our country. We work through a partnership network of state forestry agencies and over 250 tree care organizations, local nonprofits, universities, faith-based institutions, and tribal communities to deliver this program. If you look across our agency, a bit over a dozen to 20 full-time employees have a signature block that says something about urban forestry, but it's really our strength is in our partnership. Our network is really who helps us get this work done. Next slide, please. Improving our forest conditions. So when we talk about our forests, we also are talking about our state forested acreage, which also a lot of time are a bit closer and closer to the communities where people reside. And so what we wanted to do is just showcase a few examples. This one, for example, is out in our western regions, the Great Plains in Nebraska, South Dakota, and talking about how they have taken young people and worked across their cities to improve conditions. And we're trying to make and empower leaders through these experiences. So there are a variety of different ways young people can work in green spaces and embrace the change and challenges that are to come. But at the same time, we're always wanting to stress the importance of making sure that we are improving their livelihoods. And so we're bringing in not just green space and tree care experiences, but we're also thinking about their educational health, right? And their readiness to go to the next phase or the next level or whatever that might be. And if it is the opportunity to continue them on into a work opportunity, we are looking for partners who are going to prioritize and always be on the lookout for job placement opportunities. My team has heard me say, when we talk about this pilot, I'm talking about my metric of success is how many living wage W-4s folks come out of these experiences with, and if not a W-4, a FAFSA form, which is a federal application for student financial aid, to make sure that they are heading in the right direction, that they have the potential and the talent for. So improving forest conditions is a way. Next slide, please. And utilizing our urban and community forested areas. We also want to talk through technology. We know that there are a lot of young people who are interested and engaged and want to be part of the solutions for climate change. They want to be at the table. They don't want to wait until it's handed to them. They want to engage right now. And we are promoting and empowering that. We also are recognizing that there are different ways they want to show up. They may not always want to show up from behind a chainsaw or from behind an axe or some pruning shears. There, we have experienced tremendous talent and opportunity on the technology side. A lot of times with our university partnerships, we've seen young people experiencing technology. We have software tools, the best science and research here inside the Forest Service and through our collaborative partners. And we want to make sure that best science gets in the hands and fingertips of everybody who has the access and need for it. We know that through the development of apps on mobile phones, making this science and this data more accessible, right? And putting it at your fingertips. And the goal is for communities to be able to best advocate for themselves moving forward. There's not enough of us to take care of the needs of all communities. And so one of our major goals is to make sure that we're always doing our part to designing and developing more stewards so they can take care of the communities where they are from. Because if we instill in them the principles of what we're doing in urban and community forestry and improving the tree and the forest conditions, then they will be the stewards in their own neighborhood, and they will take on those responsibilities and hopefully those leadership roles for years to come. So we're looking beyond just an urban forester. We're looking to see where our next educators are, where our next training directors are, where our next environmental justice advocates are. And so that's what we're looking for through this potential opportunity with urban and community forestry. Next slide, please. I turned to an example of Greening of Detroit. When we were setting this up, we kept thinking, how can we showcase some of our partnerships? So you all know that we are not a program that is new to working with young people in the inner city. We're not new to the concept of training and designing training that leads to job opportunities. What we are newest to, I guess, is this structure of CORE. We have partnerships that have used the term CORE, but might not be part of the CORE network structure. But we don't. That's not a requirement for us, but we do know that you all are a different network in a different space, and so we wanted to see if we could expose this network, and thank you to the partnership office as we're looking to again establish some pilot opportunities across the country. The Greening of Detroit has just been a longtime partner for us in urban community forestry. They are in Detroit, Michigan, and they have focused heavily on sustainability, community engagement, and progress. And the reason I threw these up is because of the receipts, right? The longevity that they've been around. Yes, they have the number of trees they've planted, but they've also given account to all the different ways they've exposed youth, right? They don't just deal with a youth workforce, they also have an adult workforce. At one point, the Greening of Detroit was doing all of the tree planting and tree care for the city of Detroit. And so as you can imagine, thinking about the capacity and then the need for workforce, I just thought it was brilliant for this nonprofit to think through, why not build a workforce for the communities that we're actually planting the trees in? And so instead of them taking a bus for hours or for miles above and beyond, they actually are working right there in their neighborhood or the neighboring community around them, and seeing job opportunities created because, you know, they're not just thinking about tree planting. Again, remember, we have a chance to improve the livelihood and the trajectory of a lot of people's lives who perhaps have systemically gone underserved or under-resourced. Next slide, please. So along the lines of the Greening of Detroit, one of the things they presented and it stuck with me is how they're stacking credentials. They're looking at, we have a broad brush stroke. We have a lot of authorities in urban and community forestry. I mean, we really can get in and meet a community where they are legally, right? And for the spaces where those authorities are tight, we're stretching them. We're stretching them because we know that in this season, equity is a priority. And so if there's a way we can make a path or create a door or make more room at the table, that's what we're doing. And so I wanted to throw up, for example, how the Greening of Detroit has been stacking credentials. And if you look across these credentials, right, it's not just tree care or urban forester jobs that a person would be an appealing recruit for, if I'm looking, right? We've seen job placements across various municipal departments, sewer, infrastructure, engineering, well beyond just parks and recreation, right? We're seeing on the construction side, these same skill sets being high priority. And not just that, having the backing of an established workforce training program where they're growing, where they're coming out of, and that transition could be smoother, that work ethic could be demonstrated real time. But then also making sure, for example, financial literacy, workforce readiness, that we are providing them with skills that get them ready for wherever they want to grow into next, and not just the pipeline of traditional. So a little bit slightly different because we're not necessarily laser focused on Forest Service job placement. We are focused on equity and improving conditions with these young people right where they are and where they want to grow into. Next slide. Promoting community volunteerism. This is an example from Anchorage, Alaska, and it's just another way to show that we can have young people working right around where they are. They're removing invasive species. They're working in the city parks and green space areas. And it also is another way for us to demonstrate that, you know, we don't have to just have volunteer hands. We have authorities that allow us to provide stipends to young people. Training programs while they're being paid real time to be trained to deliver the same work that needs to be done. And so they don't have to just volunteer unpaid to do this, because it is hard for a lot of our young people. They want to be part of our conservation work. They want to be an environmental advocate, but they also have a financial need that's hovering over them and their family. And so that often leads them maybe closer to working at a grocery store or at a retail, right? But if we could provide paid workforce opportunities, paid conservation and environmental opportunities, we could be a contender, and we could be a potential employer and trainer and pathway for this young person to explore a field where a lot of times in our urban youth, especially when we look across the minority youth in urban areas, the Black and Brown communities, low income communities, they just don't know what they don't know. And I think it's our responsibility to make a path forward for them. Next slide, please. So delivering social benefits, environmental equity, key primary priority for us. We have a heavy focus on assessing urban climate challenges, right? Addressing urban climate challenges, and that's all the things in all the ways. Environmental justice, I shared with you all, we've been signed on as a Justice 40 covered program since the concept was first introduced to this administration. And then also we look at economic recovery. How can we improve the economic conditions in the lives of the humans and who are the residents of these communities. We're not just focused on the natural resources. We want to improve the human resource conditions in these neighborhoods and make sure that while we're doing it, one of the consequences is that we're always thinking about the consequences of the improvement and making sure that they can still afford to enjoy the environment that we're improving around them. Next slide, please. So how we operate, very intentional with our equity work. We look at data tools. We look at tools being renewed, redefined, brought to us on a mobile phone. They're just a fingertip away. The same data. So we support a tool called iTree, for example, which is a software tool that tells us all the scientific indications and gives scientific metrics and indicators of the benefits of trees and green space and the environment around us, right? But breaking that down to somebody who's not a card-carrying member in the forestry community and breaking it down to a homeowner or a resident, right? Who just wants to go and advocate for their community, why and ask the questions from a place of understanding and education as to why they don't have as much tree and canopy cover as another neighborhood. Why is their neighborhood 9, 10 degrees hotter in the summer on a hot summer day than the neighborhood across town that is experiencing and has long experienced tree-lined streets and has adequate or an abundance of green space available to it. We look at the urban heat island to tell the story, and we tell the story out of those vulnerabilities. We look at the consequences of not acting, and that is what gives us the sense of urgency. We're moving in now. Food insecurity. We've long said that if our communities that are often the hottest, they often have the most health challenges. They often have housing disparity conditions going on. They also are hungry, right? So our urban and community forestry program has come in to some neighborhoods by way of nourishment. So we have used our authorities to provide fruit and nut-bearing trees to communities, especially those that have active community gardening, volunteer programs, or heavy market and rotation of employment sources. Sometimes it's very simple to just add the fruit and nut-bearing trees, because if they're a food desert, this is another source of nourishment. We've worked through federal partnerships such as Urban Waters. We want to always amplify that we are engaging tribes. For the past 2 days, I've been part of a tribal consultation. Tribal communities are eligible to be assisted through this program. Tribal youth are always looking for opportunities. We work closely with our minority serving institutions, tribal colleges and universities being one of those. New media also means new circles, new networks, new spaces. And so we are penetrating as many different conversations and networks that we can get into to share more information about this program. Urban Tree Workforce Programs, minority serving institutions, I mentioned Justice 40 and our Equity Action Plan, all things we're responsible for. And on America the Beautiful side, I personally sit on the White House subcommittee around nature and communities. Right, we're looking at nature-deprived communities and how we can leverage and layer our fundings and our resources to improve these conditions, especially while we have this opportunity to focus on those who are most disadvantaged and work around many of the barriers that they have identified that have long caused them to perhaps be less resourced. Next slide. And so I wanted to leave some time for discussion. Again, I am Beatra Wilson, Assistant Director for Urban and Community Forestry here at the Forest Service, based out of Washington, D.C. This is a link to my website and then my direct email address. But you are welcome to drop the slides if you all want to open up for a discussion. If you have any questions. Oh, no questions?
Thank you I just want to say, this is Jennifer from Detroit. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I'm kind of new to the YCC and learning things about it. So giving us all that information and the avenues that we can travel with our students and how we can build them up, excuse me, to make them more employable or even open their eyes to different avenues of employment that they can have is great. I'm always looking for different partnerships and things that we can do to help bridge that gap. So I appreciate you and I thank you for giving us this information.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thanks for joining today.
Hi, my name's Larry Murphy. I'm with the Urban League of Greater Richmond, Virginia. And so I just want to echo that. Is there any way we can get, I guess, the presentation and so we can share this with a wider audience here in Richmond?
I see the record button is on, Larry, so I know at a minimum this is going to be chopped up and refined to where it can be shared. I don't know where it will be hosted, so I'll have to leave the partnership office in charge of that. But I wrote your name down. I'm sure that the slide deck can be shared. These are, and some of these same examples are on our website, which is the www.fs.usda.gov. /managing land urban forest UCF. If you go to our website, some of these same examples are hosted on our program's website. We just pulled a few of them just to show that, we can create opportunities most local for young people.
This is Megan with the Workforce Development Program as well. We will be sharing the recording. Yes, so we'll make sure that we get that to attendees.
Thanks, Megan.
Beatrice, it looks like we've got a couple hands raised. Monica and then Jerry.
Thank you, Monica.
Sure. Hi, Beatrice. Hi, everyone. Monica Tabaris with the Greening of Detroit. Just wanted to thank you for including us and thank you for the support. We certainly appreciate all of the work and the impact that we're able to make with the support here in Detroit throughout all of our programs, both tree planting and workforce. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Monica. And there's nothing like doing a presentation and dropping a partner's name and then they come back and endorse that we were just like really telling the truth about our relationship. So thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
We have Jerry and then after that, Judson.
Jerry?
Taylor, and I'm the Director of Diversity and Career Pathways for the Sustainable Forestry Initiative and Project Learning Tree. I had a question because I know we're looking at urban populations. Have you all had any partnerships with the juvenile justice system? Because I know that is huge in the urban space as well as things around mental health. So I was just wondering suggestions if we wanted to enter working with the juvenile justice system, because that is a space. Whereas, in DC, a lot of our students are involved in that system where I'm from. So I'm just trying to think of opportunities with those organizations and thoughts.
Yes, no, fantastic question. Hi, Jerry. Good to hear your voice, long time. I will say yes and yes. We have in our program made room and hosted, I think it was just last year, a roundtable around the topic of recidivism. We know that these are opportunities for those in communities to retool and be a positive additive to their communities, right? And we're not talking rocket science, and we're not talking about training that takes years and years to develop. And so we are thinking about that exact same audience. How can we get our young people's hands busy and busy in the business of improving their environment around them and better understanding the benefits and the importance of the environment around them? And so yes, they would be absolutely. They would be a potential applicant, or they would also be a great source for those of you who are more well-versed in core style training programs to collaborate with and create a pipeline, a steady pipeline of young people who would come through a workforce opportunity such as this. So yes, great question. Thanks. And this is who we're targeting. It's all youth. It's not just those who know about or have access to us. It is also, we're expecting that there's some recruitment energy put into the development of these work experiences and really going out and making sure that we create comprehensive programs that are solving the societal challenges as in addition to the environmental challenges.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Megan, this is Merlene. I'm going to step in for just a moment. There were a couple questions in the chat. First, my name is Merlene Mazik, and I am the team lead for the Workforce Development Partnership Service Hub, organized in the National Partnership Office of the Forest Service. I want to thank Ricardo and Beatra for leading out on this presentation today. I'm real excited to see all of the questions and the inquiries. Number one, the Forest Service is hiring. And part of what we're trying to do here is really build our capacity for future workforce, not only in the Forest Service, but in support of conservation in the private sector as well. So all of these programs, in one way or the other, are intended to be pathways moving forward. Secondly, yes, there are opportunities for older individuals to participate in these programs, and some of our programs are open to individuals with no upward age limit. For instance, the Resource Assistance Program for people who may be interested in career changes. Although the primary emphasis on that program is emerging professionals recently out of college, we have also engaged candidates who are looking for career changes and an opportunity to learn more about how we work and to get some work experience with us and access that direct hire authority. Someone asked a question about Public Lands Corps and whether or not that special hiring eligibility is available to candidates who work in urban areas. If presently that the Public Lands Corps Authority is limited to individuals who work on National Forest System lands, but we are pursuing some options that might extend that authority outwards. What's most important is that we provide more opportunities for urban youth to work in their own communities, in their backyards. And Beatra's presentation is really focused on how we can work with more partners using all of these resources that have come into the Forest Service through the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act. And the restoration and reforestation programs are all applicable into communities, whether they are on our forests or in our cities and our states. And we want to partner with you all to provide those experiences to young people, to recent graduates, to others who just really care about protecting and restoring their environment for their pleasure and for their recreation. I just wanted to share that we may not every program will provide candidates with a pathway to hire, but I think we are much more interested in how we can provide individuals with paid work experiences that provide them with training that can be applicable to other industries as well. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there. And again, thank you all for being on this call. And I do believe you have another hand up, Megan Judson.
Yes. Hi. I was really just trying to ask a quick question. So was there a what was the age range from 18 to what?
It depends on
Merlene for this one.
I'm sorry.
It depends on, is it 15 to 18 or 15 to 19? And that's how new we are to the YCC space, right?
Okay.
We're learning as we go. So I'll have to punt to Merlene to give the actual there.
Judson, it depends on the program. YCC, which is the Youth Conservation Corps, is a summer youth employment program that can happen on federal lands as well as state and urban communities. That's 15 to 18-year-olds. We have other partner programs that target audiences from 16 to 30 and veterans up to 35. And then we have programs that, such as the Resource Assistance Program, and some of our students and emerging professionals university partnerships that target college students and individuals 17 and above without any upward age limit. And then let me mention one other program, the ACES, which is a aging program for individuals, retirees who are interested in coming to work for the Forest Service, and they bring certain skill sets. These are all paid experiences.
Okay. And is there a link that we could follow to if we wanted to get more information on this, or?
Yes, on the slide that's I think still up. If you go to partnerships at U.S. Forest Service,
For some reason I wasn't able to see. Yeah, I think it's because I joined in on my phone. I wasn't able to see the slides.
It will be available in a link that we will be sending out to everyone at the conclusion of this call. And from that link, and as well as the information that Beatra has shared, her link, you should be able to navigate to information about all of these programs. And I really appreciate your interest.
Thank you.
And you have our contact information. So if you find that it is challenging, which I'm not going to deny that, we don't have the easiest and the websites to navigate, please reach out to the either Beatra or else the other email that's listed for workforce development contact. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a question from Shanto Gray Eyes.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for putting this presentation on. I really appreciate it. Super helpful to see the Forest Service looking at creating partnerships within the urban forestry sort of sector. I work for the Ancestral Lands Conservation Corps, so in a sense, a partnering organization, and we work particularly with Indigenous Native American folks, people who identify culturally and historically to lands that can be Forest Service or Park Service or other things like that. So with the IYSC, you had talked a little bit about that. Do you have any particular knowledge of things coming down the pipeline in which folks from Indigenous backgrounds could work in their own communities as well, partnering with, Native nations, reservations, trust lands, things like that?
I'm going to ask Ricardo Martinez if he could come on camera and respond to that question.
Sure thing. So first, hello, and thanks for the question. I think that's really great. I think right now the Indian Youth Service Corps is really in its sort of formative phase. So we're looking through opportunities to partner with folks on stuff like that. And I think, we're certainly aware of and looking at awesome models of success that Ancestral Lands has already shown within partnership with the Forest Service. And so I think, the quick answer is yes, and more to follow. We don't have a presentation definitely ready for this forum, but we'll certainly be reaching out to you and others on that conversation.
Thank you.
So it looks like those are all the raised hands.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Not seeing anything else in the chat either.
Yeah, I would remind people if to fill out the registration form, and that will be a guarantee that you will receive further information about upcoming events, notifications. I saw there was a question about funding availability. I know that Beatra and her team are planning to issue some NOFOs regarding some of this work in the future. That if we have your contact, I'm sure they would be very pleased to add you to any announcements about upcoming opportunities to access resources, as will my staff. We are planning to issue potentially a request for information so that we can build our network of partners across all landscapes. And this was our first effort to start having these conversations so that we can spread the word. There are way too many organizations and groups who don't know about the work that the Forest Service does and all the opportunities. And this is just the first of many efforts that we are hoping will allow us to have a much broader partnership base that are going to help us reach some audiences that have been, honestly underrepresented in the Forest Service in many, many ways. So welcome all of you to continue to partner with us and to become a part of our network, and so that we can share more information with you.
Got one more hand raised, it looks like. Michaela Hendrick.
Hi there. My name is Michaela Hendrick. I'm the director of Rensselaer Youth Outdoors, a youth organization in the capital region of New York. I had a quick question regarding the iTree Academy that was mentioned. Was that a pilot program that was offered, or is that still something that's active? We learned about the MyTree and iTree program at another Forest Service seminar last year, and had some really good success implementing that with our teen programming this past summer. So that's something that would be of interest to some of our teen participants.
Yes. So Michaela, great question. Thank you. We have piloted the iTree Academy for a couple years now, trying to figure out where the sweet spot is, because it is a fairly technical tool, right? And we're trying to get it in the hands of those who need it the most and who are most vulnerable and want to advocate for themselves. We have sponsored a couple free iTree Academies this year. And so I wrote your name down, and I'll make sure that we find your email address and contact information, because that academy is delivered. We partner with our research and development organization to deliver that. And we're trying to design it in different ways that it can either touch on our collegiate level youth, or community activists or advocates or environmental stewards who are already in the environmental know-how. We are just trying to figure out how we can disseminate the information and the academy and figure out various learning levels to just introduce the tools and the tool in spaces. It's a free tool. It's a tool that the federal government has supported and continues to support the best possible science in when it comes to the benefits of urban trees. And so I would say that, we're continuing to sponsor free academies. I can't say on the spot how many seats are available in each of them, but I do know that they are being deployed. I've seen an email within the last 2 weeks. I know one is coming. So I wrote your name down, and I will make sure that we also get a cross link on our own Urban and Community Forestry website that speaks to those iTree Academy offerings.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And we're grateful for the support of the Forest Service in funding our Summer Forest Conservation Corps program through the Urban Connections Grant Program. So this was a great webinar, and I'm really grateful to be here today. Thank you for this.
Awesome, thank you. And I do see in the chat, my team, which we are small but mighty, I've seen them dropping links in. I think Quinn Holyfield has dropped a link in to about the iTree Academy. And so again, we are trying to get more of these academies deployed, because we found just through sensing and town halls and feedback that there's a educational need just for the access and entrance of the tool. So we got to work all ends of the stream of the pipeline to make sure the tool is disseminated to those who need it.
Hi, Marlene. This is Kelsey. I see one other question in the chat. From Tiffany, are there opportunities to create certification opportunities for sacred forestry spaces?
Thank you, Kelsey. I did see that, and I think I just responded. I probably need more information. So I would love to get a follow-up message at the WDP email address, and we can have a conversation. And I want to thank Beatra and Quinn and all the others who from the Forest Service, Ricardo for stepping in at the last minute on my behalf. Of course, Megan and our interpreters. We could not do this without you. Thank you for joining us. Again, this is just the first of many, and I'm really excited to build on this initial contact and conversation.
Awesome. And thank you, Marlene, and to the larger team, the partnership office. We appreciate you sharing the space with us. This concept is new. We will have a public-facing notice of funding opportunity coming late spring. But when it comes to very specifically us piloting this Urban Youth Conservation Corps, we are going to follow the guidance of our partners in National Partnership Office, and we will make sure we disseminate that announcement as far in advance as possible and get it into your network so you can help us take a more innovative approach and intentional approach to our urban youth, doing the work that you all do so well. So thank you again.
Megan, any closeouts?
I think we were good questions wise. So same thing. Just thank you all for attending. We appreciate you taking the time to learn about the opportunities that are out there and to get our youth and just generally those who are unfamiliar with the forest, get them into the forest, get people advocating for those lands that we all share. So yeah, thank you all again. We appreciate your time. Hope you have a great afternoon.
Take care.
Thank you all.